Blessed One, in 60 million Buddha fields also I saw Buddhas, Blessed Ones. Blessed One, I made prostrations to the Buddha fields and to the Buddhas and continued on straight away. Blessed One, in another 8 million Buddha fields I saw Tathagatas producing the deed of passing into nirvana. After making prostrations to those Tathagatas as well, I continued on straight away. Moreover, Blessed One, in 95 million Buddha fields I saw the disappearance of the holy Dharma, and, Blessed One, I became distressed and burst into tears. Moreover, I saw Devas, Nagas, Yakshas, Rakshasas, and many embodied beings of the desire realm weeping, pierced with great agonizing pains. Moreover, similarly, Blessed One, after making prostrations to these Buddha fields, together with their oceans, with their Mount Sumeros, and with their land, that were all without exception burnt, I fell into despair and left. Blessed One, up until I came to the Padmottara world system, Blessed One, I saw 500,000 million thrones set up too. 100,000 million thrones were set up in the southern direction. I saw 100,000 million thrones set up in the northern direction, 100,000 million thrones set up in the eastern direction, 100,000 million thrones set up in the western direction, and 100,000 million thrones set up in the upper direction. Also, Blessed One, those thrones that had been set up were made solely from the 7 precious substances, and on all these thrones too, Tathagatas are seated and teach the Dharma. I was amazed at those Blessed Ones, and so I asked those Tathagatas, what is the name of this Buddha world system? And those Blessed Ones said, Child of the lineage, this world system is named Padmottara. Then, Blessed One, after I had circumambulated those Tathagatas, I asked the name of that Buddha field's Tathagata. They said, the one called Tathagata, Arhat, perfect and complete Buddha Padmagarbha, performs the activities of a Buddha in this Buddha field. Then I asked this of them. Since there are many hundreds of thousands of millions of Buddhas, and since I do not know the Tathagata Arhat, perfect and complete Buddha Padmagarbha, which is that one? That Tathagata said, Child of the lineage, I will show you the one called Tathagata Arhat, perfect and complete Buddha Padmagarbha. Then the bodies of all those Tathagatas disappeared, and they appeared only in the forms of bodhisattvas. A lone Tathagata was apparent, and I made prostrations with my head at the feet of that Tathagata. As soon as I went there, a throne appeared, and I went to that throne. And, Blessed One, at that time many thrones appeared, but not seeing anyone on those thrones, I said to that Tathagata, Blessed One, I do not see any sentient beings at all on these thrones. And the Tathagata said, Sentient beings who have not produced the root of virtue do not have the power to sit on those thrones. I said, Blessed One, after sowing what kind of root of virtues does one come to be on those thrones? That Blessed One said, Listen, child of the lineage, sentient beings who have heard the Samghata Sutra Dharma Pariyaya, by that root of virtue will sit on these thrones, and there is no need to mention those who have written it out or read it. Sarvashuddha, you have heard the Samghata Sutra Dharma Pariyaya, and therefore you are sitting on this seat. Otherwise, how would you have entered into this Buddha field? That Blessed One spoke thus, and I said the following to that Blessed One. Blessed One, how much is the mass of merit that will be produced by those who hear the Samghata Sutra Dharma Pariyaya? Then the Blessed One, the Padmagarbha Tathagata, displayed a smile. I asked that Blessed One for what purpose that Blessed One displayed a smile. Blessed One, what is the reason and for what sort of purpose did the Tathagata display a smile? That Blessed One said, Child of the lineage, Bodhisattva, great being Sarvashuddha, he who has attained great power, listen. It is as follows. To make an analogy, someone is a wheel-turning king ruling 4 continents. If he plants sesame in the fields of the 4 continents, Sarvashuddha, what do you think about this? Would many of his seeds grow? Sarvashuddha said, Blessed One, many. Sugata, many. The Blessed One said, Sarvashuddha, from those sesame seeds, a sentient being would make a single pile, and some other person would take each sesame seed from that pile of sesame seeds, one by one, and place it aside. Sarvashuddha, what do you think about this? Would that sentient being be able to count those sesame seeds or make an analogy of them? The Bodhisattva Sarvashuddha said, Blessed One, he would not. Sugata, he would not. He would be incapable of counting those sesame seeds or making an analogy. Likewise, Sarvashuddha, apart from the Tathagata, no one else can make an analogy for the massive merit of the Samghata Sutra Dharma Pariyaya. Sarvashuddha, it is as follows. To make an analogy, Even if as many Tathagatas as there were sesame seeds should all declare the merits of the roots of virtue from hearing the Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya, they would not come to the end of that merit, even through an analogy. That being the case, there is no need to mention one who writes it out and reads it and has it written. The Bodhisattva Sarvashuddha said, "Blessed One, what sort of massive merit will be produced by the one who writes it out?" The Blessed One said, "Child of the lineage, listen. Someone cuts up all the grass or wood of a galaxy of 1,000,000,000 world systems to the size of a mere finger width. And, Sarvashuddha, listen to a second analogy, too. If as many stones or cliffs or earth or particles of dust as there are in a galaxy of 1,000,000,000 world systems were to become wheel-turning kings ruling 4 continents, would it be possible for someone to make an analogy of their merit?" Sarvashuddha said, "Blessed One, it would not, except for the Tathagata." Similarly, Sarvashuddha, it is impossible to make an analogy for the massive merit of the one who writes out the Sanghata Sutra Dharma Pariyaya either. Compared to the massive merit of that many wheel-turning kings, one who writes down even just one syllable of this Dharma Pariyaya and sets it up will produce a much greater massive merit. Those wheel-turning kings are not like that, although their merit is extremely large. Sarvashuddha, likewise, the merit of a bodhisattva, a great being, who remains upholding and practicing the holy dharma of the Mahayana, cannot be overshadowed by a wheel-turning king. Likewise, an analogy cannot be made for the massive merit of the one who writes out the Sanghata Sutra Dharma Pariyaya. Sarvashuddha, this Sanghata Sutra reveals treasuries of merit. It pacifies all that is delusional. It makes the lamp of all dharmas blaze brightly. It defeats all the wicked maras. It makes the abodes of all the bodhisattvas blaze brightly. It brings about the complete accomplishment of all dharmas. He spoke thus, and the Bodhisattva, the great being Sarvashuddha, said to the Blessed One, "Blessed One, here the practice of celibacy is a very difficult practice. If one wonders what the reason for this is, Blessed One, a Tathagata's practice is rare, and likewise the practice of celibacy is also rare. At the time when one engages in the practice of celibacy, one will see the Tathagata directly. Day and night one will see the Tathagata. At the time one sees the Tathagata directly and looks at the Tathagata day and night, one sees the Buddha field. When one sees the Buddha field, one sees all the treasures. When it is one's time to die, terror will not be born. One will not be born in a mother's womb at all. One will not become sorrowful at all. One will not be bound by the noose of craving." He said this, and the Blessed One spoke thus to the Bodhisattva, the great being Sarvashuddha. "Sarvashuddha, the arising of Tathagatas is rare." He said, "Blessed One, it is rare. Sugata, it is difficult to find." The Blessed One said, "Sarvashuddha, likewise this Sanghata Sutra Dharma Pariyaya is also difficult to find." Sarvashuddha, anyone whose ear this Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya falls upon will recollect past lives for 80 eons. For 60,000 eons they will attain wheel-turning kingship. For 8,000 eons they will attain the position of Indra. For 20,000 eons they will be born equal in fortune to the devas of the pure abodes. For 38,000 eons they will become the great Brahma. For 99,000 eons they will not fall down into wrong realms. For 100,000 eons they will not be born among pretas. For 28,000 eons they will not be born among animals. For 13,000 eons they will not be born in the form of an asura. Their death will not be brought about by weapons. For 25,000 eons their wisdom will not be distorted. For 7,000 eons they will exercise wisdom. For 9,000 eons they will be handsome and lovely. They will be just like the form bodies accomplished by the Tathagata. For 15,000 eons they will not be born as a wife. For 16,000 eons their body will not be stricken with illness. For 35,000 eons they will possess the divine eye. For 19,000 eons they will not be born in the birthplaces of Nagas. For 60,000 eons they will not be overcome by anger. For 7,000 eons they will not be born into an impoverished household. For 80,000 eons they will be active on 2 continents. Even when they become impoverished, they will obtain this sort of happiness. For 12,000 eons they will not be born in the birthplace of a blind person. For 13,000 eons they will not be born in bad migrations. For 11,000 eons they will be sages propounding patience. Also, at the time of death, when the final consciousness ceases, they will not have incorrect perceptions. They will not be overcome by anger. In the eastern direction they will see as many Buddhas, blessed ones, as there are grains of sand in 12 Ganges rivers. In the southern direction, they will see directly 20 million Buddhas. In the western direction, they will see as many Buddhas, blessed ones, as there are grains of sand in 25 Ganges rivers. In the northern direction, they will see directly as many Buddhas, blessed ones, as there are grains of sand in 80 Ganges rivers. In the upward direction, they will see directly 90,000 million Buddhas, blessed ones. In the downward direction, they will see directly as many Buddhas, blessed ones, as there are grains of sand in 100 million Ganges rivers, and they will all say to that child of the lineage, "Child of the lineage, you have heard the Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya, and therefore in future lives there will be this many good qualities, benefits, and happiness. Therefore do not be afraid." Saying that, they will reassure that person. O child of the lineage, have you seen many hundreds of thousands of myriad millions of Tathagatas, as many as grains of sand in Ganges rivers? He says, "Blessed one, I have seen them." "Sugata, I have seen them." He speaks, "O child of the lineage, these Tathagatas have arrived to see you." He says, "What sort of virtuous action did I do that this many Tathagatas have arrived at the place where I am?" He speaks, "Child of the lineage, listen. You obtained a human body. The Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya fell upon your ear, and therefore, due to that, you created this great amass of merit." He says, "Blessed one, if even my mass of merit becomes this much, what need is there to mention one who hears it comprehensively in its entirety?" He speaks, be quiet, O child of the lineage, I will describe the merit of a 4-line verse, therefore listen. Child of the lineage, it is as follows. To make an analogy, even compared to the mass of merit of as many Tathagatas, Arhats, perfect and complete Buddhas as there are grains of sand in 13 Ganges rivers, it produces a much greater mass of merit than that. Compared to one who honors as many Tathagatas, Arhats, perfect and complete Buddhas as there are grains of sand in 13 Ganges rivers, if even one who hears just a 4-line verse from the Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya will produce a much greater mass of merit than that, what need is there to mention someone who hears it comprehensively in its entirety? Child of the lineage, listen to this regarding one who hears the Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya comprehensively in its entirety. If there were as many wheel-turning kings as the number of sesame seeds planted in the whole galaxy of 1 billion world systems, and a rich person with much wealth and great possessions made offerings to those wheel-turning kings, compared to that, one who makes offering to one stream enterer produces a much greater mass of merit. If all those sentient beings of the galaxy of 1 billion world systems were to become stream enterers, compared to the mass of merit of one who makes offerings to all of them, the mass of merit produced by one who makes offerings to one once-returner would be much greater. If all those sentient beings of the galaxy of 1 billion world systems were once-returners, compared to the mass of merit of one who makes offerings to all of them, the mass of merit produced by one who makes offerings to one non-returner would be much greater. If all those sentient beings of the galaxy of 1 billion world systems were non-returners, compared to the mass of merit of one who makes offerings to all of them, the mass of merit produced by one who makes offerings to one Arhat would be much greater. If all those sentient beings of the galaxy of 1 billion world systems were Arhats, compared to the mass of merit of one who makes offerings to all of them, the mass of merit produced by one who makes offerings to one Pratyeka Buddha would be much greater. If all those sentient beings of the galaxy of 1 billion world systems were Pratyeka Buddhas, compared to the mass of merit of one who makes offering to all of them, the mass of merit produced by one who makes offerings to one Bodhisattva would be much greater. If all those sentient beings of the galaxy of 1 billion world systems were Bodhisattvas, compared to the mass of merit of one who makes offerings to all of them, if the mass of merit produced by one who makes their mind inspired with pure faith in one Tathagata and makes their mind inspired with trust toward a galaxy of 1 billion world systems completely full of Tathagatas, and one who hears the Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya would produce a much greater mass of merit than that, then, Sarvashura, what need is there to mention whoever writes out the Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya, or memorizes it, or reads it, or who comprehends it completely? Sarvashura, what need is there even to mention prostrating with a mind inspired with pure faith towards this Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya? Sarvashura, what do you think about this? One might wonder whether all childish ordinary individuals are able to hear this, but even if they hear it, they will not generate faith. Sarvashura, listen. Is there anyone among childish ordinary individuals who is able to get to the bottom of the great ocean? He said, Blessed One, there is not. He said, Is there any sentient being who could deplete the ocean with the palm of one hand? He said, Blessed One, there is not. Sugata, there is not. He said, Sarvashura, just as there is no sentient being at all able to dry up the great ocean, Sarvashura, nor is any sentient being of lower aspiration able to listen to this Dharmapariyaya. Sarvashura, those who have not seen as many millions of Tathagatas as there are grains of sand in 80 Ganges rivers are unable to write out the Sanghata Dharmapariyaya. Those who have not seen as many Tathagatas as there are grains of sand in 90 Ganges rivers are unable to listen to this Dharmapariyaya. Those who have not seen hundreds of thousands of myriad millions of Tathagatas, having heard this Dharmapariyaya, will reject it. Sarvashura, those who have seen as many as 100 million Tathagatas as there are grains of sand in the Ganges River, when they hear this Dharmapariyaya, will produce a mind inspired with pure faith. They will be delighted. They will understand correctly, exactly as it is. That one will have faith in the Sanghata Dharmapariyaya and will not reject it. Sarvashura, listen. Those who write out just a 4-line verse from the Sanghata Sutra, after they pass 95,000 million world systems, their Buddha field will become just like the Sukhavati world system. Sarvashura, the lifespan of those sentient beings will have the capacity to be 84,000 eons. Sarvashura, listen. As for those bodhisattvas, those great beings, who hear as little as a 4-line verse from this Sanghata Dharmapariyaya, Sarvashura, it is as follows. To make an analogy, a sentient being who has committed the 5 uninterrupted actions, ordered them done, or rejoiced in their doing, will purify the bad karma of the 5 uninterrupted actions if they too hear just a 4-line verse from the Sanghata Dharmapariyaya. It is like that. Listen, Sarvashura, and I will explain still another good quality. It is as follows. To make an analogy, a sentient being destroyed stupas, causes a division within the Sangha, causes a bodhisattva to waver from their meditative absorption, creates an obstruction to the wisdom of a Buddha, and takes human life. Afterwards, that sentient being regrets it and is distressed. By this body I have been ruined, and ruined in the next life too. I am worthless. Thinking thus, there arises intense contemplation, and he experiences painful feelings. He experiences unbearable feelings. Sarvashura, that sentient being is rejected by all sentient beings. He is despised. This sentient being is burnt and worthless. He has become worthless with regard to worldly and supramundane phenomena as well. For many eons, this man will be like a log burnt to cinder. This man will be just like pillars and beams in a nicely painted house that are not beautiful once they are burnt. He is not lovely in this world either. Wherever he goes, in all those places, sentient beings will criticize and beat him too. And though afflicted with hunger and thirst, he will not obtain even the slightest bit to eat or drink. On account of that, he experiences a feeling of suffering and is reminded of the destruction of the stupas and of the 5 uninterrupted actions out of hunger and thirst and abuse. And having been reminded on account of that, he thinks, Where am I to go? Who is my protector? And he becomes depressed by the suffering, thinking, Since no one at all is a protector to me here, let me go to a mountain or ravine and there put an end to my life. He said, Since I have done wicked acts, I'm like a cinder forever burnt, both in this world not lovely, and in the next world lovely not. Within the house too not lovely, also outside lovely not. Due to flaws I did wicked deeds, through them to lower realms I go. I will suffer too in other lives, in whatever bad state I dwell. As he sobbed and choked on tears, even by devas his words were heard. Alas, to lower realms I go. Thus in the life beyond there is no hope. The Deva said to him, Foolish person, thinking so, drop this suffering mind and go. Father killed and mother killed. Since 5 heinous deeds I did, refuge, comrade, none for me. Suffering feelings I will have. To the mountain peak I'll go, my body there to cast away. Foolish being, do not go. With this mind that would do harm, much wickedness was done by you. Do not do this wicked act. Who does harm unto themselves, to the suffering hells will go. They will grieve and cry aloud, and due to that fall to the ground. Not by that effort do Buddhas come to be, nor do bodhisattvas come about. Even a hearer's vehicle is not attained, so by another effort strive. Go to that mountain where a sage is. Having gone and seen the magnanimous sage, at his feet he paid homage with his head. Holy being, be a refuge for me. I'm so oppressed by fears, by woes. Essence of beings, sage, please hear my words. Please sit and make an opportunity for thought. Explain virtuous Dharma for even just an instant, since I'm oppressed by terror and pain. Please sit just for a short while. Let me confess the many wicked deeds I've done. May the sage please speak to me. The sage said, weeping in sorrow and overcome with grief, you are afflicted by hunger and thirst, traveling in the three worlds in despair. Therefore eat the food I give. In order to satisfy the body, the sage gave food. After eating this delightful, tasty food, a being will feel extreme joy. The Dharma that purifies all wickedness, later I will explain to you. Then, in one instant, he ate that delicious food of his. Having eaten, he washed his hands and circumambulated the sage. As he sat with his legs crossed, whatever he'd done that was wrong, he told. Father killed and mother killed, and stupid destruction I have done. I blocked a bodhisattva in his pursuit of enlightenment. When he heard these words of his, the sage then spoke these words. Since you have done wicked acts, O my, you are not virtuous. Make a confession of the wicked acts that you have done or ordered done. At that time, at that moment, he was pierced with agonizing pains and became distressed with terror. He said to the sage, who will be my protector? Since I have done wicked acts, I will undergo suffering. Then that man placed both knees on the ground and said to the sage, all the wicked deeds I've done and ordered done I now confess. May they not bring wicked results. May I not experience suffering. Let me become close to you. Sage, please become my refuge. Make me without regret and at peace, and thus pacify my bad karma. Then at that time, at that moment, that sage said to the man, reassuring him, being, I will be your refuge. I will be your support. I will be the friend who defends you. So listen to the Dharma in my presence without fear. Have you heard even a little of the Dharma Pariyaya called Samghata? That one said, I have not heard it at all. The sage said, who will teach the Dharma to a burnt sentient being except for one who abides in compassion and, due to that, teaches the Dharma to sentient beings? He said, child of the lineage, listen further. At a time immeasurably long ago, immeasurably many eons past, at that time there was a righteous Dharma king named King Vimalachandra. Child of the lineage, a son was born into the house of King Vimalachandra. Thereupon the great King Vimalachandra assembled the augural Brahmins and said to them, Brahmins, what sort of sign do you see for the youth? Then the augural Brahmin said, Great king, it is not good. This youth who was born is not good. The king said, Brahmins, what will become of him? The augur said, King, if he attains the age of 7 years, this youth will endanger the life of his mother and father. At that, the king spoke as follows, Even if there may be an obstacle to my life, fair enough, but I will not kill this son of mine. It is very rare to attain birth as a human in this world. Therefore, I will not commit such harm to the body of any human. After that, the youth grew rapidly. Specifically, when he reached the age of 1 month, he had grown the amount that others grow in 2 years. After that, the king Vimalachandra knew, too, that the youth had grown because of karma that the king himself had accumulated. Then the king gave his kingdom to that youth and spoke as follows, May you become a king well-renowned and with a vast dominion. Rule righteously with Dharma, not by what is not Dharma. Then, having granted him the kingdom, he bestowed on him the title king, and King Vimalachandra acts no more as king of his own land. Then the 1,000,000 ministers proceeded to the place where King Vimalachandra was, and having reached there, they spoke to King Vimalachandra as follows, O great king, why is it that you are not now acting as king of your own land? The king said, For immeasurably many eons, although I have ruled as one having kingdoms, wealth, and power, I have never had enough. And at that time, at that moment, before much time had passed, that child took the life of his father and mother, and therein he accumulated the karma of the uninterrupted actions. O being, I also remember the time when suffering feelings arose for that king, and he felt regret and sobbed, choking on tears, and I generated a mind of great compassion for him. Having gone there, I taught the Dharma, and when he too heard that Dharma, those uninterrupted actions were quickly purified without any remainder. He said, those great ascetics who hear the Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya, the king of sutras, will attain the unsurpassed source of Dharma, the purification of all wickedness, and the pacification of all that is delusional. The Dharma that swiftly sets you free, I shall explain, so listen well. If just a single 4-line verse is explained in a continual stream, all wickedness will be purified and stream entry will be attained. From all wickedness one is released. With this solemn utterance, suffering beings are completely freed from the bondage of the fear of hell. Then the man rose from his seat, placed his palms together as he prostrated to him with head bent down. He approved by saying, "Excellent. Excellent, virtuous friends. Excellent those who teach the great method, the Sanghata Sutra, which destroys wickedness, and also for those who hear it, excellent." Then at that time, at that moment, from in the middle of the space above, 12,000 Deva sons placed their palms together and came before the sage. They prostrated at his feet and said, "Blessed One, great ascetic, for how long back do you cognize?" Likewise, 4 million Naga kings came, and 18,000 Yaksha kings came. After placing their palms together and bowing down to the sage, they said, "Great One, for how long back do you cognize?" The sage said, "For hundreds of thousands of myriad millions of countless eons." They said, "By which virtuous karma will this bad karma be completely pacified in an instant?" He said, "By hearing the Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya." From among the sentient beings who are gathered here, all those who had faith upon hearing this Dharma Pariyaya are predicted to unsurpassed perfect and complete enlightenment. If those persons who have committed the 5 uninterrupted actions even just hear this Dharma Pariyaya called Sanghata, they will completely exhaust and completely purify their karma of the 5 uninterrupted actions instantly and entirely. For countless hundreds of thousands of myriad millions of eons, the doors to the lower realms will be closed. The 32 doors to the Devas' worlds will be opened. If that is how the roots of virtue of one who also hears even so much as just a 4-line verse from this Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya will become, what need is there to speak of one who shows it respect with flowers, incense, fragrance, garlands, lotions, powders, robes, canopies, banners, and pennants, and who venerates it, makes drawings, makes offerings, joins together symbols and musical instruments, and rejoices afterward one time, approving by saying, "Well said, excellent, excellent." Then the Bodhisattva, the great being Sarvashuddha, said to the Blessed One, "Blessed One, as for one who places their palms together and prostrates when the Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya is expounded, does merely placing their palms together produce a massive merit?" The Blessed One said, "Child of the lineage, listen. Even those who have committed the 5 uninterrupted actions, have ordered them done, and have rejoiced in the doing of them, and who place their palms together and prostrate upon hearing as little as a mere 4-line verse from the Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya, if all their karma of the 5 uninterrupted actions will be completely purified when they prostrate, Sarvashuddha, what need is there to mention those who hear this entire Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya comprehensively? This one will produce a much greater massive merit than the former. Child of the lineage, I will show you an analogy in order to make the meaning of the Sanghata Sutra understood. Sarvashuddha, it is as follows. To make an analogy, 5 great rivers issue forth from the palace of the Naga king Anavatapta, where the sun never rises. If some person should count the drops of these 5 great rivers, Sarvashuddha, would they be able to reach the end by counting their drops? He said, "Blessed One, that cannot be." The Blessed One said, "Sarvashuddha, likewise too, it is impossible to reach the end of the roots of virtue of the Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya by counting for 100 eons or even for 1,000 eons. Sarvashuddha, what do you think about this? Doesn't the one who explains his Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya for even an instant undertake hardships?" He said, "Blessed One, that one undertakes hardships." The Blessed One said, "Sarvashuddha, the one who is able to explain this Sanghata Dharma Pariyaya undertakes much greater hardships than that. It is as follows. To make an analogy, by means of counting the drops in the 5 great rivers that arrive from Lake Anavatapta, it is not possible to reach the end." He said, "Blessed One, what are those 5 great rivers?" The Blessed One said, "They are as follows. Ganges, Sita, Vakshu, Yamuna, and Chandrabhaga. These are the 5 great rivers that arrive to the great ocean. Each of these 5 great rivers is accompanied by 500 rivers. Sarvashura, these 5 rivers also descend from the sky with 1,000 rivers each, and by them living beings are satisfied.